Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Two Chiefs, One Mic podcast, season 2. We think it's episode 6. We had an offline debate about that. I'm Scott Hughes.
And I'm Mike Hawkins, and we're here today with retired Captain Daniel Grubbs from the Fort Smith Police Department in Arkansas. And today we're going to talk about a program that he instituted in their post academy, which is their week onboarding after their recruits get out of the academy there. And it's about marriage wellness. And so first, Daniel, thank you to the for coming to the Two Chiefs, One Mic podcast. And why don't you give us a little rundown about you, about your history, your career, where you started, and then we'll get into the program.
I'd be honored to. Guys, I'm so blessed that you even asked for me to be a part of this. I think the more leadership gets some of these tools under their belt, actually be a leader and take care of the ones that you're leading. So I'm from a small town about an hour and a half south of here. My family owned a grocery store, so I was in the grocery business my entire life and never thought law enforcement would be it until I met the right people. And honestly, in a small town, a lot of the cops were, they were the ones that didn't get picked for kickball or varsity. And so, they flexed on everyone. They were kind of bullies. And I didn't meet the right one. So I went to a bigger city and actually got recruited by a 20-something-year sergeant. And I thought he was crazy. And honestly, I applied. I was one of 12 that got selected. And, you learn real quick about how this career is ordained by God. I'm a man of faith, and there's no doubt God picks particular people to do this profession. I did it all. Started in 99 as a patrol officer, and I absorbed everything. I had some awesome leaders that I worked for. One of my biggest pinnacles was obviously being a SWAT officer. When you watch the movie SWAT back in the 90s, that's what everybody wanted to do, early 2000s. I'd worked myself up to be a SWAT commander and work in criminal investigations, public information. And towards the end, I really cherished being the patrol division commander. Those are the ones that patrol obviously is the skeleton, is the backbone of any department. And to be a part of putting my thumbprint on 5 years of officers is something that it's pretty humbling to be put in that role, but I really embraced it. And when you go to all these leadership training courses about transformational leadership and all these catchy words of, just the easy way to summarize it up is, don't be an a-hole, be someone that's approachable and genuine. They know when you're just trying to check a box. So, I was all about tactics, obviously from my background, and discipline and appearance, all of those things that you were taught. But something hit me one day that, there's a piece of this that we're missing that no one really would talk about. None of the leadership before me ever gave any guidance. And honestly, it's how many officers you saw lose their careers because of decisions they made. And how many officers endured divorce, how many made those decisions, and you saw the broken relationships and families. And it was, I felt like as leadership, look, if you're going to step into that role as a Christian, you carry those values in everything you do. And not everybody was doing that. And I wanted to be one that,
Daniel, it's before we go any further, I should let you know that I am the 1988 runner-up for the fastest bagger at a grocery store near my house. So I appreciate you starting off in the grocery business. Yeah, I'm very proud of that. I still have the trophy. You probably can't see it, but the trophy's still probably displayed here behind me. But so, you also said something. You said you were talking about leadership, and there's so many leadership classes out there that have all these catchy titles, and some of them are like what? But you said something that I say and every time I teach, and that is this. I walk in, if I'm doing a leadership or a supervisor training, I'll say, okay, I can sum this class up in about 30 seconds. I'll give you your certificates and you go home. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Don't be an asshole. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Never forget where you came from. Okay, any questions? And they're all looking at me like, okay, like it's that simple, right?
But you still stick around for 8 hours to get paid, right?
Well, yeah, you got to get your certificate. Yeah, you got to get the certificate. Yeah. The state's reimbursing you for that 8 hours. So now you got to sit there and listen to me for 7 hours and 58 more minutes. But anyhow, so you saw this void and you said, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I'll just stop there. Walk us through that. So you see this void, you see this thing that's missing, you've recognized in your career, and as you're working your way through the ranks, you've seen homes destroyed, you've seen careers destroyed. I'm sure you've had scenarios where officers, because there's so much stress inside their homes, they're taking it out on arrestees, they're taking it out on coworkers, and everything in between. So you said, you know what? We're not going to keep kicking this can down the road. We need to do something about it. And that led us to this podcast. So let's hear all about this program. I'm anxious to hear about it.
It is, and I appreciate it. And when I would walk into the room, I would see all these faces, and I think those that do our job remember how excited we were when we finished the academy. Now I'm fixing to enter into field training, and I mean, there's that confidence of, okay, I'm going to change the world, and then you realize, I mean, you can't save everyone, but to walk in that room and go, I want you to have a long career. And I can remember sitting on a range one day, and me and another Christian buddy were talking, and we remember that cliche that, the badge will get you, but that particular will get your badge also. So, it's in the crass way we're talking about it. And we started listing all these people that had lost their jobs at our department because of extramarital affairs and on the job indiscretion with, it was sad how many names we listed. So I was always a person that when you walk in my office, it's clear what was most important to me: my relationship with Christ and my family. That's all you saw. Yeah, you saw the medals, you saw the coins, the challenge coins, but you saw what was number one to me. And when I went into the room, I said, guys, gals, we're going to talk for a second. One, I want you to understand, I'm going to talk to you and I want to give you my credentials so you understand I know what I'm talking about. So a lot of guys that want police training, hey, tell me what all you've done. You've done patrol, PID, narcs, SWAT. You're like, all right, he's got street creds. I'm going to listen to that guy. Well, I also would tell him, listen, I have been a devoted husband with my wife since we met on a blind date in February of 2000. We've never been apart. We have 4 wonderful children, 4 wonderful grandchildren, and we've never had an argument. But let me tell you how that works. And so bring it in. So, look, I want to talk to you, as a Christian, do you have a problem with that? And if you do, leave the room, because the ones that need to hear Christian men talk to them, they're going to have that floor. And I would stress to them, part with our church, if you want to have a successful family, there's statistics that show if the man is leading their family to church, 93% chance that their children will continue church after they leave that man's house. If it's the woman leading to church, it's about 17%. So guys, if you want to be in leadership in your home and in this type of job that requires an alpha male, you need to be an alpha in everything that you do. So that's how I would kind of segue into it. And then I would kind of go into, this is one of the number one pitfalls that I saw on this job in the 26 years, is some of those allowing it to become their identity. That's all they did. Everything they did when they left, they ate, breathed, slept, and they just never disconnected from this job. And the ones that were good at it and were in these proactive areas that you really had to get, dirty and sweat and blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, that's a grind. It's a serious grind. So I stress that this is your identity. Honestly, if you're a Christian, needs to be in your faith as a Christian. And this pays bills. This is what you do to pay your bills. And I tell them how many people I've seen leave this job and stress that once you lose your way and your ethics and morals in this job, it's hard to get another one. So there's some decisions you might want to make right now about doing the right thing.
So you have these conversation. I'm sorry. So you have these conversations. So you have these conversations with your guys and gals in roll call, or in the squad, or wherever you have it. And first of all, did you have anybody leave and not want to hear it?
Not once.
Man, that's something.
Not once. I think this is a
Good for
younger
you.
generation that was really hungry for that. Hey, man, teach me how to shoot on the range all day long, but I love my wife. I love this job and I love my kids. Most people have been, at least exposed to a broken home, so they understand what it's like. And hey, if you're going to tell me as a man that's been married that long, beautiful family on the wall, talk to me. Let's talk. What do I need to do?
So what is there? Is there a story, or is there a real life example that you can share where you're having this conversation, and I'm sure it didn't happen in front of other people, but after that conversation or conversations, you get the message on the computer, you get the text, you get the phone call, says, "Hey, can you door up with me in this parking lot? I want to share something with you." Like, is there a story or stories where you're like, I made a difference in someone's life? In other words, had I not had that chat with them, they may have gone down a different path or a different direction.
Percent. The last 6 months of my career, I had 2 occasions. I had one lieutenant transferred to me because of disciplinary reasons, and it was because of an affair. It involved another officer. So they went through disciplinary actions. Family, it looked like imminent divorce was on the in play. He gets sent to me, and I could tell he's bitter. And I had a conversation with him via computer. I listen, let's talk on Monday. I wouldn't like to know how I'm being transferred via email either. But you know what? Let's talk. Give me a chance. And so I started working with him.
Wait, they hold on. Sorry, sorry. They transferred him via email.
Yes,
Good lord. Okay, sorry.
I know.
Leadership 101. Have difficult conversations face to face and never on a Friday. Okay, carry on, Daniel.
I know. Hey, I'm with you. I mean, that was the cards that I was dealt. And I'm like, this is the ultimate shit show, but I'm going to deal with it and go with it. But anyway, I started working with this guy and being closely related to me with it, having a troop. I mean, we had to work day to day together. When I told them, I actually told those guys first, my 3 lieutenants, that when this Catholic school offered me this job, I told them first that, hey, I'm probably going to take this job. I think I'm going to retire and I'm going to go here. It's about my family and my grandchildren. He come in a little bit later and he shut the door and he's like, man, I hope I can get through this without breaking down. He's like, hey, me and my wife were sitting on the porch last night and we were talking. And he said, our marriage is the best that it's ever been, ever. And he said, I know. And that's when he got a little bit emotional. He said, I know I owe a lot to you of being assigned to you. And I mean, I took that huge as an accomplishment in the last 6 months. And then one other guy that actually, he was a coworker. He was a captain, a fellow captain that I'd worked with for 7 years. I had been digging on him at about that same time frame. He actually followed me outside one afternoon and said, hey, I just need to get outside for a minute. And he started talking to me about getting saved. And he actually did security at my church. So he sees me and my family at our church every Sunday, and church is not negotiable. But man, I talked to him about getting saved, and now they're attending our church. He and his family is doing great. They just gave birth to another child. So, when I left, honestly, I could look at all those accolades of the awards and the leadership this and being a good investigator. I mean, a trusted officer, but man, those 2 occasions, those last 6 months of my career, 100% I put above all those other accolades. You're saving a marriage,
So,
you're potentially saving another guy,
so that was interesting because that was going to be my question. Those sound like those officers that had experience, been around a while, and you brought this program into the recruits, usually younger. So, and you talked about having identity outside of work, and back in the day, it was you lived to work,
Yes.
and now people are working to live, right? They just want to get enough to get by. Have you noticed a difference in the acceptance rate in what you were teaching from the young recruits as opposed to some of the long in the tooth guys, or could you have seen this program working 20, 25 years ago?
Absolutely.
And then maybe a little demographic of Fort Smith. How many people do you have? Well, a little bit about the department too.
Fort Smith it's a very commercial city. There's a lot of migrant traffic in and out. Our base population is around 90,000. I will say, here's my only problem with that. The last census, it was during the pandemic. So to me, there's almost an asterisk. I mean, in 2020, we were going door to door trying to do a census. My business brain was going, this is not a good idea, but I digress on that. Now, every day, because of all the merchants and large businesses and commercial businesses we have, our population within the city will probably swell to about 200,000 people, easy, 200, 225. The department, we're at 160 sworn. We've had to cut budgets this year. We've got about 50 non-sworn positions. So, right at 220, 225 overall employees within the department. Fort Smith covers 68 square miles. We're pretty, laid out as far as the size of our patrol area. I think that answers that, right?
Yeah, that's a larger agency. So Scott and I come from consider smaller agencies, but I guess they're average size, maybe. But we've talked to people that have had 5 people. We've talked to people that had thousands. So a good size agency. So back to that. Did you see any resistance, or do you see do you think this program could have worked 20 years ago? Not that it wasn't needed then, but the change in mindset to the new recruits to what was in 99, 2000s. How do you think this would have played out back then?
Wish we had done it. And honestly, you make a really good question, a really good point. I got almost instant feedback after having that discussion with them. Of one, had some that, man, they'd been raised in church. So I mean, they love to see that, and they know that, man, I don't have to separate my faith from my work. I can be a faithful person no matter what I do. But I would have them come to me and just be, I love that. You're bold about it. I love it. You don't have to hide it. That's where I'm at. That's where I want. You're a family man. You're all about faith. That's great. The other ones, I think some people just get into their old system. They get bogged down. And honestly, it usually for the older guys, it took some type of earth shattering or major event or a crisis event to go, you know what? Now I want to talk to what you got to talk about. It's funny how people find Jesus whenever the world's ending, you know? So the young ones, I almost got immediate good feedback because it was one, it was real. I think they could tell most of your recruits are in their early to mid 20s. I'm, late 40s, early 50s, to where there was some cred there that, you know what, the guy probably knows what he's talking about.
So Daniel, walk us through the program. What is it? What's the outline like? What does it look like? How do you start it off? Like, what do you talk about? Kind of go through
The big
what your
part of it
time
is
with them.
one, the identity. You cannot let this become your identity. This is a job, boys and girls. You're paying bills here. It's a serious job. It's a dangerous job. I get that. You have to have, when you leave here, you're your first and last name, not the rank, title, and all that. Let's make sure we discuss that. The next biggest step was you and your spouse need to be on the same page with this job. I need your brain all in when you're here. You have to have a complete buy-in by your spouse or your significant other, or it's not going to work. It's just not. This is a career that they have to be supportive of this, or you might want to start looking at a different direction. Kind of gave the statistics that I think are still relevant, that if you find your significant other or a spouse while you're already in this profession, they know what they're getting into. They date, you go through the courtship, they understand the dangers and the complexities, the schedule shifts, the middle of the night calls. Excuse me.
That's why cops and nurses are such a good
Yes.
match.
And where you see the split is those that, hey, I come from the civilian world. Now I'm going into the law enforcement world and I have a spouse. And a lot of those didn't work. I saw a lot of people leave the job or divorce a lot. The stats were just there. And honestly, you could see in the room, some of that hesitancy of going, wow, I just met my fiance like a week ago. I'm in all these time frames. So we did on that pretty hard too. The next part of it was an outlet. What I really think, in my opinion, is when you look at the officers that have these massive drinking problems, the mental health issues, they never developed a really good outlet. And I would discuss with them the outlets. I mean, one obviously is a church. Join a church, small groups. It's very critical to the success of your marriage too, is what I told them. That there's no doubt in my mind, me and my wife are still successful because of our church. We've always been a church. It's never been negotiable. A big part. Next part is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Our pastor has this saying that you're only as good as the top 5 people you surround yourself with. And sometimes, you're going to have to subtract people that are around you to be successful. So we kind of went into that part of it. And I told them, my closest friends, as an example, they're not in this job. Over the years of my profession, you have your professionals that you still hang out with, you talk to, but my very most closest inner circle were people that weren't in law enforcement. So when we got together, you're in your plain clothes. You're not talking about jobs. You're not talking about arrests. You're not talking about cases. You're playing golf. You're going on bike rides. You're hiking. You're talking about life. You're talking about raising your kids. I mean, I think that was huge to have that automatic separation and to
It's funny. It's funny, Daniel. I was at the gym this morning, and there's a kid that's 27 years younger than me, and he looks at me and he says, "Hey, can I ask you for a piece of advice?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if I'm giving advice at 0600, but I'll talk to you." And he said, "What would you tell someone my age entering the workforce?" And I said, "Well, I would tell you that you have to have the ability to communicate. You have to be able to talk to people, all different walks of life, have those conversations, and be able to carry on a conversation with different types of people in different scenarios, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't matter if you're in law enforcement, if you're in sales, if you're in whatever, insurance business, like you have to be able to talk to people and carry on conversations." And it's funny hearing you say that because I think about why do we surround ourselves with cops off duty? You said you're only as good as I don't have my readers on. You're only as good as the top 5 people you surround yourself with. Most of us, well, I shouldn't say most, a lot of us surround ourselves with cops because that's who we're comfortable talking to, because this profession makes you extremely cynical and it makes you not trustworthy. It's hard to get out of that out of that mindset, if you will, that, all people are bad or all people are liars or whatever. So I'm just going to sit around with these people that I trust who got my back and I don't have to worry about. And it's cool to hear you talk about your what I'm going to call inner circle aren't cops. And I would argue you're probably a rare breed because I think probably most cops surround themselves with other cops. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's interesting that I think it makes complete sense. I would just be curious if we were able to do a survey, like how many other people out there, their top 5 people they surround themselves with in law enforcement are other law enforcement officers. So that's pretty neat to hear.
I appreciate it. And I'll be honest. I mean, when I first started the job, predominantly, yes, that is the only people I hung out with outside of work. But you kind of learn that, you know what? I'm not getting away from it. And you would recognize that this is all we're talking about. And I'm not getting that separation from it. So that's what I love about the people that I hang around with. And I still have hundreds of cop friends. I really do. And I think it's the point of the
Do you
emphasis there was don't isolate yourself in the bubble with only that because of the stress level, because of the critical incidents that all of you are dealing with on a day to day basis. You're not getting yourself time to reset at all or unplug and just have an outlet. If it's a friend, hobby, your wife, get outside and play golf together. My wife's a golfer. We're hikers and we love biking. And so I have automatic outlets with her the minute I walk out here. We go to the gym together. That's pretty great. So again, it's just throwing those tools on the belt of going, it's going
My wife
to
refuses to
slide in
go.
that
My
path.
wife refuses. Yeah, my wife refuses to go to the gym with me. She said,
Scott, I think talking about the people you surround yourself with, when you first start, it's all cops. But to your point, as you get more time in the job and as your rank goes up and it's less friends, I think you start to assimilate with people outside. So I think it kind of depends where you're at in your career, where you're at in your rank as
that's a good
well.
point. That's a good point. No, you're right. You're right. I think about as a chief, the people outside of that aren't cops that I talk to, they always want to ask me stupid cop questions, right? Like I can't. Again, at the gym. Hey, can you tell me blah 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 about such a law? So anyway, Daniel, we cut you off. Don't be defined by who you surround yourself with. Sorry. What's next on the in the program? Sorry.
Oh, no, no problem. I love talking about all this, and I could sit here and talk about this all day. Honestly, the hobbies, we kind of segued into that. That's an emotional checkoff. Make sure you're doing that. And another thing I stress to them too, and this is what I watch with our younger officers. To me and to you up and coming chiefs, email is not an emergency communication. Hey, this is something that we can get to. And I told them, let me give you a really good piece of advice. Another way of, check it out. Unplugging. Turn off your email notifications. If I'm sending you something, we all work different hours. I want you to answer me when you get here. When you walk out of this building, you are devoted to your family, to your wife, your husband, whatever. You're devoted to them. And I think there's some bosses and some leadership that don't get that. I think they're still putting that job above everything else. They have made it their idol. And a huge stress relief for me was and I never got in trouble for it, but I'm not checking these email all weekend long. I'm not doing it. I'm not checking it when I go home. If you need me for something major, you'll call me. And I've told the officers, honestly, if I or lieutenant or sergeant needs to talk to you when you're not here and it's something that's of urgency, I'm calling you.
Yeah.
Turn that email stuff off. I don't want you dealing with it. That's part of that separation. So I would really stress
That's
that
a
with them.
That's a great point, and there's some elected officials that need to hear that because I think
Good.
a lot of chiefs the chiefs get sucked into, well, if one of my elected officials or my city manager sends me a message and I don't respond right away, I'm in trouble. So they need to understand, like, hey, we have lives, we have families, we have kids, we have sporting events, all the other things, and would they answer an email right away if the roles were reversed? And we all know the answer. So yeah, that's important. Mike and I had a guest on last year who talked about the importance of like not waking up right away and checking your email. And I've heard numerous people talk about, when I say numerous, people who work Monday through Friday business hours. Well, I got up on Sunday morning. I was just sitting around drinking coffee, just answering emails, because you'll get these emails on Sunday mornings. I'm like, why are you answering emails on Sunday mornings? Well, the kids were asleep and blah, blah, blah. So I just decided to check emails. Oh, like that, to your point, Daniel, like that's not what you're supposed to be doing, but we're all guilty of it. I mean, shit, I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't. I mean, I might look at my email tonight, but yeah, I think it's that human nature. I think it's just it's breaking that habit, right? And you bring up a great point. Email is not is not an emergency communication. I'm going to use that, by the way, because it's not. It's
Or a way to notify of transfer, right? at 5 o'clock on Friday.
I totally agree.
yeah,
I mean, and he
yeah.
and I,
And I think in a smaller agency, it's tough too.
and I
Like,
still talk to all these guys, so it's great. We can laugh about it now, but man, he was pissed. I'm like, I get it.
What was that movie? How you get fired on your day off? What was that movie?
Friday,
Yeah. How you
yeah.
get fired on your day off? Yeah. It's like, yeah. I mean, that's like basic. You don't write somebody up on email. Anyway, so this program that you developed, phenomenal. You're giving this information out to these recruits. We have come a long way in the wellness space. I think, Dr. Kevin Gilmartin has done some phenomenal work. He wrote a great book called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. Another great book out there by, I think it's Eileen Kirschman, called I Love a Cop. Another great read. So we're certainly making progress, but to see you actually being able to deliver this as part of curriculum, I think is just phenomenal. Hopefully it's retained. Hopefully the cultures and the organizations, when these kids go to work for these departments, they continue it. I think my fear would be, hey, you get the stuff in the academy, and then they go to some agency that's all screwed up, and it's all for nothing. But let's hope not. And it sounds like you've had some really good success with it, and I think it's important for chiefs, up and coming chiefs, who are thinking, hey, what can I do to set my department apart or separate my agency from what other people are doing? This is a great idea, because this is all part of that wellness package. We talked before I hit the record button. If you're stressed out inside your own home, if you're fighting with your spouse, your kids, whatever the case might be, you're taking that stress with you to work. And now when you take that stress with you to work, you are going to be more likely to use force, to make reckless decisions, to cut corners, to do whatever. And it's our job, I think, as administrators, to go, hey, wait a second. If something's not right at home, we need to fix it. And for some of these kids that we have today, we're not just their boss, we're their fathers, and right or wrong. So I think it's imperative that we create a culture where we can have those conversations, and these guys can trust their sergeants, and depending upon the size of the organization, trust the chief. Depends on how big the department is, because it's just imperative. Because literally, lives are on the line, right? I mean, lives are on the line. They're not sleeping, they're drinking, blah 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 blah. Mike, what do you think?
I love it. And I think we've touched on a lot of this on a lot of our podcasts. I mean, the wellness aspect and the identifying outside of work have, I think, in probably 3 of the last 4 podcasts have been something we've talked about. Having the outlet, not identifying. Scott and I both were part of a podcast, a wellness podcast. I think mine's out, yours is about to launch. And it was same thing. What are we doing for wellness? What are you doing outside of work? And that was the last question was, what would you give? What advice would you give? And that mine was that exactly, like, find something, find an outlet, because you find these people that are all cop all the time. When they retire, they're lost, right?
Yes.
So you have to have that before you go. And I see those are the people that struggle off duty, and everybody's guilty, right? Especially going through the career. But it's finding something. For me, it's coaching football, basketball, it's golfing, reading, whatever it may be. But you've got to find something. But Daniel, I know you retired, so hopefully somebody's carrying on that training. But when you retired, you didn't give up the law enforcement role. You're in charge of security at a private Catholic school, but you implemented something, I think, that was one of the first in the nation, correct?
It was.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I tell you what, towards the end of my career, and I think you hit on an important topic too, is a lot of officers struggle when they leave this profession of like, who am I? Who am I? And that's why I think this course is so important, to get it at the forefront that it's a job. It's not who you are. Now, I will say it was important segueing into this job. This is a wonderful location. our former sheriff of the county, his wife was a principal for 21 years here. And this is where we're at. This is Trinity Catholic School. It's a junior high that's 6th, 7th, 8th grade. We've got about 240 kids, but they were looking for someone to direct their safety and security. And Arkansas law passed a new law a few years ago that allowed private schools to hire basically a civilianized SRO. I mean, a lot of your SROs are dedicated to the public school system. They're connected to a police department. They're connected to a sheriff's department. So the state kind of looked at, we're kind of leaving out these charter schools, these private schools. What are they to do? Because the police departments aren't going to loan to a private entity like this. So they approached me in January of last year about this, and I was at the point where I could draw a pension, and this was a dream job. I mean, 2 of my years as a bike cop and SRO were probably the 2 funnest I had. You're out chasing people, but you see the beauty and the innocence in the kids, and it's all about positive every day. But one system that the principal, when he and I discussed me moving here and taking this role, he had heard of a system called Zero Eyes. And I immediately knew what he was talking about because the Fort Smith Public School system adopted this software. And honestly, guys, it's genius. I really wish more people would know about it. What it is, it's an AI-based software that integrates directly into your existing surveillance camera system. Now, your surveillance cameras have to meet certain specifications for the AI to work. But what it does is about every second, it takes about 8 to 10 screenshots of that picture of your surveillance system. And it's designed to look for anything that is the shape of an exposed firearm or rifle. If it gets an alert, if it thinks it picks up a threat, it sends that alert to their operations center that is manned 24/7 by retired military, retired police. They see that instant screenshot that the system picked up. So the person makes the determination, hey, this is good, or if it's a false alarm. If they believe it's a good alarm, then instantly I'm notified via my computer, my phone. The system is running through an app on my phone. I get a snapshot of the perpetrator, exactly what it looked like, who the person is, what camera. It starts tracking them through GPS, through the cameras that are also equipped with this AI software. But also what is really good, it sends that same alert to whatever PSAP that's whenever in your area. So the dispatch officers responding, you're taking out the stress of a victim or a witness describing a person in an active shooter event, and you're getting actual real world pictures of who you're looking for and it tracking it via GPS because of the additional cameras that have that software. So I knew he was talking about. I gave a presentation to the trust board that controls our finances here. That was probably the easiest 5-minute sell I've ever made. And honestly, we got 12 right off the bat for 5 years. And we just got them live this January, but they actually ran a promotion that if you did any type of public news story about, partnering with them, I'm like, hey, right up your alley. Talked to one of our local TV stations. I did a good interview for them. And because of that deal they were running, we got 5 additional cameras for the existing 5-year contract we signed. So now we've got 17 live cameras on this campus that are fully AI integrated for gun detection.
Now you can send them this podcast and get 5 more.
I know, man. I'm thinking about it.
I didn't even know that.
Just thinking, I think we got a new sponsor for the podcast, Mike.
Yeah. Do Scott and I each get 5, or do we have to split it?
I don't know.
I'll just take the money, Daniel. What's the name of the product again?
It's called Zero Eyes.
Zero Eyes?
Yes.
Like Zero Eyes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Zero
we'll
Eyes.
make sure we put that up on we'll make sure you let Zero Eyes know that they're going to get a shameless plug on the Two Chiefs One Mike podcast, and we'll promote them on when the young lady who does a phenomenal job editing this, we'll make sure we put a thing up there for Zero Eyes.
Pretty legit.
So
It's
awesome.
The company was founded by a group of SEALs that, once they were done with their deployments, they're like, hey, man, we got a really good idea. They just didn't have the IT person that could put it all together, and they met the right IT guy. And so they put this company together, and I mean, there's a lot of college campuses and major businesses that use this, and you can look them up on the internet. But
Yeah, I've seen it. I sat through a presentation of it one time with them and how they do it, and we talked to it. It is very interesting. Daniel, anything else you want to tell us? We usually try and keep these to about 30 minutes or so, and we're going close to 40. So we want to kind of tie up, wrap up. So anything else? Outstanding program. Did good work there at the department. Still doing good work. Anything you wanna say before we wrap up here?
just think for a lot of us that have been in this profession a long time, I think we need to take a step back and ask what true leadership values are we displaying to our officers? And if you're seeing these statistics continue, then leadership is doing something wrong. And I think this is something that I wish people would look at, and you owe it to your personnel. If they're still having suicidal issues, there's a reason for it. And I think it's upon us as leadership to do something to fix it. And so I'm welcome to discuss this with any agency. The outline, the things that we kind of touch on. This is not for me to hold on to. This is for other people to be successful. And I'm honored you asked me to talk about it.
Daniel, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Hey, you have my email address. That's dgrubbs at Trinity or thinktrinity.org. I believe you've got it in your email systems.
dgrubbs at thinktrinity.org.
Yes.
That's DGRUBBS at thinktrinity.org. Phenomenal. Well, Daniel, this has been a great episode. I appreciate you coming on and appearing on the Two Chiefs One Mic podcast. Great information. Keep up the great work. Thanks for all you do to keep our schools safe. Thanks for your service to the police department. Congratulations on one heck of a marriage. It's on you said you had grandkids, so congratulations. You look way too young to have grandkids, but that's another podcast. Mike, take us home, brother.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. And Daniel, I took your advice and I didn't even know it at the time. I missed our last podcast because I was on vacation with my family. I had so much vacation stored up because I'm here trying to get things done, get things fixed. And finally took the time, took a little over a week, got away. We went out, my wife and the kids, down to Florida, missed the last podcast, left it all there. And the only other time I could leave things was when we went to the NA. And I was able to leave things to somebody else. You forget, and you talk about having these outlets. It's not the job. Somebody will fill your seat the second you leave, right? It's not about you. It's not about Scott. It's not about Daniel. It's about the position, and somebody will have that position after you, and somebody had it before you. Many did. So I think today's podcast was a great reminder that you are, like you said, your first name and last name, not a rank, not a title. And it's the things, the family that surround you that are the most important. And it's a good reminder to chiefs and people coming up to keep the right things, and keep what's important on the front burner there. And Daniel, thank you enough. And glad you could join us on the Two Chiefs One Mic podcast.
Amen, guys. If we're not teaching them to put their family first, we're failing them.
Truth.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate it, and thank you very much. And hopefully you get some contact and some emails on those outlines.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.